today's topic is quarterbacks and heart attacks. And this starts with, like all good things, Tom Brady, four-time Super Bowl champion, legendary all-time quarterback. That angry glare is perhaps that he was passed over 198 times when he was first selected into the league, and he was selected 199th overall. This, on the other hand, is Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf, unlike Tom, was a very highly regarded prospect and was selected second overall in the NFL draft, but as you might tell from the pinstripes on his jumpsuit, his career didn't turn out so well, right? So how come we could figure things out well with Tom and not so well with Ryan? But before we get too caught up on the problems of NFL executives, we have the same problem in medicine. This is a plot of cardiovascular risk from the Framingham risk score, which looks fine. A lot of people have low risks, and this is great until we realize that those are all people who actually had cardiovascular events. So over half the people who actually have cardiovascular events in our data have a predicted risk of less than 10%, which begs the question, how can we screw this up so often, both in football and in cardiovascular disease? So the first reason is that the game is changing. So in football, we're asking to make predictions about players against new rules, new offensive and defensive strategies. For medicine, we're asking to do things where the medical landscape is changing, new treatments, new procedures, et cetera. So when we look at something like the Framingham risk score, it turns out that the Framingham risk score is based on pretty old data, such that about 2/3 of the follow-up from Framingham occurred over 20 years ago. So should we be surprised that Framingham doesn't do well in contemporary populations? Probably not. Second problem, measurables only tell part of the story. So what do we mean by that? Well, we tend to like to use things that we can measure and not things that might actually matter. So when we look at something like the NFL, NFL players compete in the NFL Combine before the draft, and they do things like try to jump a long way, which may or may not have anything to do with their ability to play football. On the medical side, we may think that nutrition and other things are important, but what do? We take somebody in the doctor's office and we measure their blood pressure. Third reason, personalization still means finding the right comp. So what is a comp? Well, a comp is somebody who is similar to you. In football, we try to find quarterbacks who have similar characteristics. In medicine, we try to find somebody who has also similar characteristics. But what are similar characteristics? Suppose we want to make a prediction for this gentleman in the red shirt. Right? We want to know what's his cardiovascular risk. Well, who is going to be a similar person for this person in the red shirt? Well, maybe it's all the people who have Y chromosomes, right? We're going to ignore age. We're going to ignore race. We're only going to look at men. That's our set of comps for that person. But maybe that's not the most appropriate set of comparisons. Maybe instead we should be comparing to people who are in his age bracket. Right? Maybe it's people between the ages of 25 and 35, or maybe it should be 20 and 40. Right? How do we determine what the correct age range is for the similarity? Or perhaps it's the person who clearly goes to the same photo studio as this gentleman. Right? So the point is that we really need to kind of figure out how to determine those comparisons in a smart way. All right? Now, so, we have this problem that we want to figure out how we go forward. And there's a lot of challenges that I've identified in this talk. Hopefully some of you have learned about some of these challenges in your courses, and going forward, you'll be ready to face some of these challenges, and you'll be ready to tackle them. Thanks a lot.